Turn right onto Sewell's Point Road, then turn left onto Joyner Street.
Damn, do I got everything?
Take the next left onto Joyner Street. In 800 feet, turn right onto Chesapeake Boulevard.
Good evening. It's another day headed to make $1.
Take the next right onto Chesapeake Boulevard, then use the right lane to take the I-64 East ramp.
If it wasn't an extra $1 tonight, I would have took off. I need to stop having that mindset. Work this thing so I can reach my goals.
Use the right lane to take the I-64 East ramp, then merge onto I-64 East.
Trying to go to the car lot by October, beginning of October, so I need to be at work. It's gonna be good though. I had a good day today. I didn't do anything but sit in the house. I didn't go outside. I didn't run no errands. I didn't do nothing. And that's okay sometimes, you know. I've never been the person that just went out with no destination anyway, so staying at home is cool by me. I never really understood it, like when people just be like, oh, I got to get out the house, and they just jump in the car and go somewhere. When I do that, I drive around in a couple of circles and never reach a destination but back home, which means I done wasted gas. I ain't got time to be wasting no gas. Gas costs too much. I need to have a place to go when I leave home. At least an idea, you know. One of those, if all else fails, I'll go here. Pretty much. Yes, that's what I'm talking about today. So, of course, I'm coming on here on my way to work just to buy some time and chop it up a little bit on YouTube Live. Today I had a lot of time to reflect and think, and one thing that I reflected on was my time of healing. You know, I was having a conversation about being in that space of finding yourself and getting things in order with self. Hey Lucas, getting yourself in order, and you know, it's not I'm not gonna say it's a hard task, but it's a task that if you aren't ready, you won't be able to do it. You know, you'll come out half cooked. Half cooked. Hey R, I hope y'all behaving tonight. Honestly, I really don't care. You know, who's here is not that important to me. I will come in here and talk to anybody or nobody because there's going to be a replay. You know what I mean? Yeah. But like I was saying, I put myself in a position of basically getting well. You know what I'm saying? Not that I wasn't sick or something was wrong with me, but a lot of times when in life you're dealing with certain things repeatedly, it's time for a self-check. You know, if you're the common denominator in many situations, and it's not necessarily that you're wrong, but you're still the common denominator if it has to do with you. So, you know, after my last relationship, that's where I was, in a space of, why am I driving? Because I have to go to work. I was in a space of just not wanting to go forward. I think I was talking about this last night, like not wanting to go forward, carrying baggage and making the same mistakes. And, you know, I was really thinking about the importance of operating from a space of wholeness, because when we don't, it's like it gets tricky, you know. If you come out of your healing process prematurely, you have a strong possibility, hey realist, a strong possibility of relapsing into a thing. Or if you stay too long, sometimes you got an issue of getting back in the groove of things, you know. And becoming whole is not just about get ready for a relationship, you know what I mean? That is a huge part of it, because I just believe, you know, a lot of people believe that two broken people make one whole, but we should be two whole people coming together as one. We should never be too broken, because if I'm 50% and you're 50%, then there's going to be there's going to be 100% missing somewhere. You know, I can't feed off of your half just like you can't feed off of mine. Realist, that what? Please. Ouch. And in my process, I really got to know myself, you know. And I think that when we get to know ourselves to the fullest and we're like honest with ourselves in that process, then it's time to start cooking. You know what I mean? It's time to start cooking. You got the ingredients you need to make sound decisions, to come from a space of clarity, to have the ability to receive wisdom as well as give wisdom. You know, if you find yourself on the end of not being able to receive things, then there may be some spaces that are still untapped, in a sense. Hey, atmosphere. You know, a lot of times when we are in a process of, I guess, I'm going to say healing, but there's another word I wanted to use. When we're in the process of self bettering ourselves, self-betterment, then I think we are probably the most critical that we've ever been. But it's those things that we're critical about where we need to get in check, so that we're, you know, not so focused on all those crazy things, so that, you know, it's a space of being honest with yourself. Because if you're not honest with yourself, who else will you be honest with? You know what I mean? You can't lie to yourself and then have me believe you're honest with everybody else. That just don't go there. You know, so when you're ready, it's like, okay, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to search myself. I'm going to ask God to search my heart. And when you search yourself and ask God to search your heart, He begins to show you things. Now, the first thing you want to do is be like, oh, no, that ain't me. I don't do that. But when you real about what you're trying to do, you're going to be like, man, I'm really doing this. Okay, what do I need to do? Why is this? I think that's one of the major questions that you ask during the healing process. Okay, I identified this. Now, why? Where did this come from? Because most things you got to get at the root. Because if you don't, you're just going to scrape the top, and it's going to be lying low still after you've gone through this whole process. And those things that you didn't go and dig deep and find and plug up and pull out, they're going to resurface. They're definitely going to resurface. So it's a like I said, the process ain't no punk, but we're ready. You know, like I said, after having a life of repeated things that go wrong, or things that you might shy away from or be afraid of, you know, moving in fear, you may have pride, you may be dealing with some rejection issues. You know, those are things that I learned about myself while I was healing. And it was a lot of times I was like, what? Are you serious? And most of the stuff that I identified, although I was in my 40s, I identified that a lot of this stuff was rooted in childhood, adolescence. But like I said, if you're not willing to be real with yourself, you're not even going to allow yourself to even go there. I allowed myself to go all the way there. Where did I found that I was a manipulator, and it wasn't like it was like a baby manipulator, I would say, because what I found, let's say for instance, I learned that I was a manipulator because I used to get my help, and I was maybe 14 years old, and she planted a seed. I saw Jennifer on the phone, talking to guys, and would ask for something, and if they said no, she had this thing where she would fake cry. And then boom, she got what she wanted. So guess who started doing that when she turned about 15, 16? But as I kept going in my growth process, I remember when I used to want to go out, like when I was in my, I guess, early 20s and stuff, but I had a kid, so of course I still had to ask, can I go? So I need a babysitter. Or even when, no, let's go before the kids, when I was a little bit younger, because I would have to ask for permission. My mom, can I go out? And she would always tell me, ask your dad. So I'll go ask my daddy, and he'd say, no, not tonight. So then I'd be like, he said no. And then my mother would go and be like, well, why she can't go? She can't go out for a little while. And I'm like, she would go in there and twist and turn and manipulate that situation, for then he'll turn around and say yeah, and then I'll go out anyway, when she could have just said yeah in the first place, and it would have been so. Yay. You got kicked out. My whole atmosphere kicked out of where? But that's just like one example of when I say you have to search and find things that maybe you're doing in adulthood, but then identify where it came from. You might deal with rejection, and it might have come from something a sibling did when you was a kid, or a parent. Maybe you felt like your mother or father favored your brother or sister more than you, so you felt rejected, and then you carry that into future relationships, and here it is, you're in a full-blown relationship with somebody, and the moment they say no, that rejection bubbles up. And if you don't remember, because sometimes we push things down subconsciously and we don't remember when those things happen. All we have is the manifestation of the thing coming back, like a cycle. Especially if you had a traumatizing experience in life. I know in school we had learned about, when I was in college, we learned about arrested development, which is when you revert back to an age, you might be 50, but you'll revert back to an age where you experienced a trauma. So there's even things like that you have to really, really go into. Then you got to go into, if you've been, in multiple relationships, you got to go into identifying and breaking soul ties, and not just physical soul ties, but verbal soul ties, emotional soul ties, spiritual soul. It's not just about, when we say soul ties, most people automatically just go to sex, but you got verbal soul ties that you probably made with a person in a relationship. You know how we are when we with somebody and y'all getting jiggy with it, and you're saying things like, you're the best I ever had, and they're calling them daddy and all types of crazy stuff like that. Those verbal words will have your next relationship expecting, with the expectations of what you receive from that last person. And maybe they don't quite live up to it, but it's only because you're comparing them to that person. Or the whole thing where you get with somebody and you just think you're so in love, and you start creating a life. When we're together, we're gonna get, shut up,
It's half a mile. Keep left or east.
I know a young person, I was guilty of stuff like, yeah, I'm gonna marry him. He gonna do this when we grow up, and I'm gonna do this, and we gonna have this many kids, and those create verbal
Keep left
soul
to stay on
ties.
I-64 east.
Then you'll still be wondering in the future when you done got with another man, y'all be done had kids or woman, y'all be done had kids. Somewhere in the back of your mind, you're wondering, I wonder what our kids would have looked like. These were supposed to be her kids, things like that. So healing is real, and that's being well. That's being well in your body, your soul, and your spirit. Your body, your soul, and your spirit. And we know that your soul is made of your mind, will, and emotions. And I think that's where a lot of our issues lie. In the soul. I was just talking about soul ties. If your mind is out of whack, of course you're not making sound decisions. You're not operating with a full deck, however that goes. You in trouble in your soul, If your will is off, you don't have, we were talking about it last night, not having self-control and things like that, you're off in your soul. And if you're just an emotional mess, wreck, everything you do is connected to emotions. You're emotional about everything. Some people like to say they're passionate, but sometimes it don't be passion. Sometimes it'll be emotions. I'm guilty of that, saying, I'm just passionate about this. I really want to see this happen. But even in church, we have people that are not having a spiritual connection, but an emotional connection. And that's where a lot of trouble comes in for a lot of people, because then they begin to emotionally worship a man versus going to worship God. Those are the people that will hang on to the pastor's every word as if he is our father, and but if you off anywhere in your mind, your will, and your emotions, that means your soul is out of whack. It's something that needs to be checked. If I give my soul to Christ, but then I allow things to control, is that something in the middle of the road? Yeah. I allow things to control my mind, will, and emotions, then what did I do with God? What did I do with my giving myself to God? Put it that way. Because I know he rests in our spirit. But if your soul is jacked up, then you see what I'm saying? I don't know. I was just thinking about that earlier, about wholeness. Being well is part of being well is being whole. If you haven't found your way into wholeness, then it's probably going to be a lot of, I would say, reoccurring issues, unfinished things that we set out to do that we haven't quite finished for whatever reason. There's going to be, I feel like, a repetition of doing, like, insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting something different. I think that we begin to allow insanity to creep in when we don't find ourselves in a place of wholeness. It's probably fake the funk for a little while. They say fake it till you make it. But if you ain't working on being whole, you're gonna crash out. You're not gonna fake it and make it. It just ain't gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. I'm glad. It took me a long time. It took me a little over 5 years to get to that space of wholeness, But I wouldn't change it for the world, and I'm glad that I had that opportunity to see myself. The breakup didn't break me. It caused me to begin to look at myself. When I began to look at myself, I was able to go in, check myself, so that I could allow God to do the work inside of me, because there's no way I could have did it on my own. Because if I could have fixed my own issues, I would have a long time ago. But it ain't gonna happen like that. You have to be willing. You know, just like we want to be a willing vessel to be used by God, we also have to be a willing vessel to be healed by God. When you allow healing to take place in your life, there's like so much more to life. Once you allow that healing to take place, things that used to bother you don't bother you no more. Seeing something that reminds you of something doesn't bother you anymore. We learn to handle things truly with decency and in order. We learn to even in our friendships, not just friendships are relationships too. It doesn't have to be a romantic relationship, but even in all relationships, you have to know how to show they say if you want a friend, then show yourself friendly. A lot of times we're not friendly to people, so therefore we don't have friends. And I'm not saying I was ever unfriendly, because I feel like I make friends easily, but I could have been off in my selection of friends at any given moment when I wasn't operating from a place of wholeness. I want strong, good friends around me. I don't want friends around me that are like, okay, go ahead and bump your head, not gonna say anything. But I also want my friends to operate from a space of love. And operating from love doesn't mean cower down or be a punk about it. It just means you love me enough to let me know, hey, yesterday you did XYZ. Did you realize that? It's the way you do things. What else comes with wholeness? You're able to receive honesty and not feel attacked. You're able to respond without being on the attack. It's just so much to operate from a space of wholeness that is beneficial to you, to your loved ones, and everyone. Like I said, when you operate from illness, you're operating from the best you. Will never be perfect. So being whole isn't about being perfect. It's about being healed in areas that you may have been hurt. Being healed in places that you didn't know you were hurt. So it was like, in order to even get through that, you have to even admit, these things hurt me. Hey, these things hurt me. Now I don't want to hurt anymore. You know what I'm saying? What do you do when you're tired of hurting? What do you do when you're tired of having failed relationships? What do you do when you're tired of jumping job to job? You try to find yourself in a place of getting to
in half a mile,
wholeness.
Use the left 2 lanes to take the ramp to
I know I'm repeating
north.
it a lot, but it's important. It's important because I know that before I went through my process, I didn't make sound decisions all the time. Yeah, I was smart as hell. I knew better with a lot of things, but
north.
I was more willing to be like, F it and just go for it, I would have been that. I cannot stand the term YOLO, but I would have been that type of person. YOLO. That is not a way to live. Yes, we only live once, so I'm not about to be out here reckless and stupid because YOLO. Somebody gonna let Drake have them on the side of the road somewhere, beat the hell up. I don't know. But there's nothing wrong with having clarity for your life and your every step and move. There's nothing wrong with allowing God to mend those things that are broken, to heal those spots that hurt. There's nothing wrong with allowing Him to go in and do, I would say, spiritual makeover. It's like surgery, you know. I'm going to go in and I'm going to touch your mind. I'm going to heal your mind from those past traumas that you experienced when you were about 6, 7, 8, or 19. I'm going to go into your heart so that you can forgive and that you can love again and not be bound by what happened to you at those same ages. You know, you won't continue to revert back to that 13-year-old girl that was bullied, or that 13-year-old girl that was violated by an uncle or something, you know, whatever. I'm just throwing things out there of how I feel in my heart that this surgery happens, you know. Now I'm going to go into even your digestive system. I mean, it's just, I feel like the Holy Spirit goes into every part of your body, your nervous system, all your systems. Just go in and purify it, you know, and then it refines you. You know, it hurts like hell to have to look at yourself and be like, damn, you screwed up. But it feels so good on the other side of that when you are smiling and you really don't have a worry in the world. You know, you can take whatever comes at you by the horns, and, you know, you say you can take a licking and keep on ticking. That's a benefit of wholeness. You bump your head
2 miles,
and
take
you
exit
won't
11A
bow
for Virginia
out
337
as
West,
you
Portsmouth
would
Boulevard.
before. But like I said, you will make more sound decisions. That's a huge part of it as well. When we're not whole, how can you select a mate that's good for you? When you're not whole, you're not able to deal with everyday things that may happen, because you might just go the hell off on whoever in becoming whole. And that right there is a whole nother ball game. We can learn to be patient in situations. You know, be patient, as patient with others as many have probably been with you during the time where you were not moving as a healed individual. Extending, you know, being able to extend that same grace that others may have extended to you when they may not have understood what you may have been going through, but you might not have been the best person to them. You learn, you know, you understand how God's grace and mercy should be something that you in turn give to others because he gives it to you. I feel like anything that we do that we know is not pleasing to God. No, I'm not saying we won't make mistakes, and I mean, tell us in the Bible
take
we
exit
all
11A
fall
for
short
Virginia
of the glory of the
337
Lord.
West,
But
Portsmouth Boulevard.
when we know better, we do better. And if I know that, you know, there's things that hurt your feelings. Imagine when you do things that hurts God's feelings. When you say something that
Take
maybe
exit
you
11A,
shouldn't have
then
said,
merge
but you
onto
might have
Virginia
said it out of
337
spite
West.
or out of anger. Like, those aren't things that just fly by God and he'd be like, oh, I know you was just, you know. Nah. We all got to answer one day or another, you know. And I think that for us to be the best, in the best position for that day, whenever it may come, if you need to, I'm not saying everybody isn't, you know, some people, hey, you might got it all together. But I don't think I know anybody that can't stand to be a little more whole. We all live the same, you know, we live a life, not the same life, but we all live life. So we know shit happens. So if it happens to me, surely it's happening to other people. Surely it has happened to Atmosphere before. Surely it has happened to Realist before. And I can't see your name, but her, I guess that's a she. Surely things happen to all of us. So we all can stand to go through a healing process. But it needs to be intentional. you know, it should be. But sometimes you get forced into that, you know. And hey, maybe I was forced to be intentional after that last breakup because I didn't think that breakup was going to happen, you know. I thought that was my person. So when you done been with somebody on and off for like 7, 8 years, and then y'all finally come together only to break up, yeah.
In a
You
quarter
know, I
mile,
could have curled up
the
in a
Jolliffe Landing
corner and
Parkway.
just been hurt and broken and all that good stuff, but I went straight to self, you know, because that's how bad I was hurting. I didn't want to do anything but stop the pain. So while other people may
Turn
get
left
over
onto
stuff
Jolliffe
like that
Landing
by
Parkway.
getting under somebody else, I went the opposite direction. I got to myself and turned to God. I turned to God. Kate, okay. Never had that. Yeah, and like she said, people don't want to forgive, but God forgives us
In 800
over and
feet,
over
keep
again.
right.
Say, how many times are you supposed to forgive somebody? What did they say? 70 times 7? 7? That's a lot of
Keep
times.
right.
Every day. 70 times 7. Like 490 times every day. That means you're never supposed to be in a
In
space
600
of
feet, slight left.
unforgiveness. And I do have a story about unforgiveness because
Exit the traffic circle,
I
then
thought I
slide
missed my
left.
turn. Because when you don't forgive,
In a quarter mile, make
I
a
think other
U-turn.
things also affect you physically, but for myself, I had unforgiveness in my heart, and I didn't know at first. But when I recognized it, um, a little while after I recognized it, and I thought I had forgiven, I began to have extreme like neck pain up in here. It was like this pain that was just crazy. I was going to the chiropractor, like, man, my neck. I'm thinking it was something wrong with my neck from work, and you know, I went to the chiropractor. Oh, you have this disintegrating in your neck, and there's really nothing you can do to correct it, but there's things we can do to prolong it. You know, the things the doctors tell you to stay in your pocket. And I recall taking a deliverance course. I took a 12-week course on deliverance, and I got almost through with it. I didn't finish the course on the Jezebel spirit, but I
In
learned about a
300
lot of
feet, turn
different
right.
things that attach to us spiritually and how it affects you physically. And when I was having that pain in my neck, I kept saying, something harbors in your neck, something harbors in your neck. And I couldn't remember what it was. And I'm like looking through my notes, trying to find it. I couldn't find it. And it was just crazy. So I ended up in a like a
Take the next right,
prayer
then your
service.
destination will be on the left.
It was at church. Well, I in church time because the church was in Chicago. But having said all that, there was an altar call, and I'm the type of person that if I'm in service at home and I need to go to the altar, I will. But you know, when I'm at home, if I need to go to the altar, I'm going to create that space for myself. You know, I'm going to partake. And he opened the altar for anger and unforgiveness and bitterness. And no problem, Kate. And when he did that, I had right before that happened, I was looking through my notes trying to find where did unforgiveness harbor, and I couldn't find it. And I ended up, you know, going through the whole prayer and everything, and I'm in prayer and I see my children's father's obituary sitting there, and I'm like, everything in me is like, forgive him. And I'm like, he didn't do nothing. You know, forgive him. I'm like, he didn't die on purpose. I'm like, okay. So I started thinking about all this stuff this man did to me when we was together, and it was like, yeah, that's cute, but that ain't it. I forgive you for having more kids after you said ours was the last one. Cute. That ain't it. I forgive you for having kids with that other girl named Tamika down the street. Yes, down the street. Now he wasn't living with me, and then he went and started messing with the girl down the street. Just coincidentally, I forgive you, and that's still what I did. And I knew in that moment I had to forgive this man for dying. It didn't make sense to me because he was in a car accident. He didn't die on purpose. Now, mind you, he used to go to jail a lot when we were younger. Good dude, but he always got in trouble, and he's one of those people that got in trouble like because he was with somebody, wrong place, wrong time type thing, or some stupid snitch. Anywho, when he was younger, he went to jail a lot. Yeah. So I actually stopped and was like, oh, he purpose, and it was just like forgive him. And the moment I allowed myself to forgive him for dying, I forgive you for dying, but it was about him leaving. So throughout when we were having our children, when he was there on and off, he was leaving us. So in this moment, it was like, I forgive you for dying. You left again. And now you got nerves to never be coming back. And that right there released everything out my neck. Yeah, I was on the floor for like 30 minutes. Then when I got up, I didn't have any more pain. I went back in my notes and it was right there. I could not find it before that incident. But I tell that story often because me being a stylist, a lot of times people will come in and, they're complaining about neck pains, and I'll ask them, who do you need to forgive? And they'll look at me like, how you know? So it's a thing. Mental issues. A lot of people out here on medication right now because they're harboring something. Pride, rejection. There's a lot of stuff that we open ourselves to spiritually because that's the way it attaches to you, is when you're open to it. What they taught us in the class was spirits enter. They have legal access. It's by way of you allowing them. They can't come in unless you've allowed something to be open. That's why some people that maybe drink heavy, they're susceptible to taking on spirits. That you are open than others to those types of spirits. And also not having unforgiveness and all that stuff opens you up. We are, I would say, a compromised vessel. And then you're going to have to sweep your house, go in and clean out every room, because they say when they leave, they'll roam around for a while, then they'll come back to where they was at before, and they bring 7 more just like them. A lot of people don't like to believe that stuff is real, but it's real. That's why I don't like to. I try my hardest not to get angry. I try my hardest not to allow a lot of things to get under my skin. I try my hardest to be kind to people. I try my hardest, because it doesn't cost me anything to be kind. And if I can't be kind to you, then I just don't be anything to you. You know what I'm saying? But I try to be aware of what I'm doing that can cause an open door. I don't want to wake up growling one day. You wake up growling when skin extra dark, countenance done changed. And that's the first thing that happens when people are dealing with things. Their countenance be off. Their countenance be way off. So I guess tonight, that's my thing. I'm just urging people to do a heart check, do a soul check, do a spirit check. Some of us may, if you are a believer as I am, sometimes you may need to put God back in the proper position first. You might need to rededicate, to check that spirit. Some of us need to forgive. Some of us need to forgive ourselves. A lot of times when we talk about forgiveness, we think it's, we got to forgive that person over there. But sometimes when things happen to us, if we hold ourselves responsible or blame ourselves for it, there's a need for you to forgive yourself. There's people who, let's for example, didn't keep children. They did the other thing. And you need to ask for forgiveness, and you need to forgive yourself. It's so many things that will contribute to you not being whole that you might not think about. You know, I had to forgive my grandmother after death. Sometimes you got to forgive a person that has gone on. It won't make sense at first, but the freedom on the other side of that forgiveness is gold. It's gold. You might have to forgive that person while in the grave so that you can release yourself and not be bound by that pain and that emotion that you carry that's connected to that. Sometimes we want an apology. We want someone to know we feel a way that we never even told we feel a way. So you running around not forgiving somebody that has absolutely no idea they did something to you. That's not always the case, but it definitely happens. And it's easy, you know what I mean? Because some things we don't look at that deep, you know what I mean? We just keep going in life, we deal with things. Some people just push down everything they go through. Everything they go through. And then when it's time, they explode. They have a breakdown. We see people have nervous breakdowns and things like that. They fly off and lose control of everything because they've never dealt with anything. It's like that last straw. The straw that broke the camel's back. The needle that popped the balloon. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, but like I said, my encouragement today is let it go. Get your mind, will, and emotions in check. Don't allow things that you harbor to make you sick. Don't allow bitterness, anger, and all those things to control you. Because if you lose control of those things, then other things gain access to control you. We have the power. So I'm like this, for some things they say, wait on the Lord. But while you're waiting, you do your best to get things done that need to be done in the meantime. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you don't want to wait on the Lord before you forgive, because when you get up there, he might ask you, why didn't you forgive Rosie? Why didn't you forgive John? And you might be in trouble. So having said all that, I have 3 minutes to clock in, and I really appreciate you guys for chopping it up with me, listening to my little rant for today. I am praying that everybody seeks wholeness. If you haven't already, if you're in the process of seeking your wholeness, or if you didn't know what you needed to do, but maybe I made you think that's what it is, get to it. And I'm rooting for you. I pray that God shows you everything that you need to see, that you need to allow him in to fix. And the Bible says, weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. It's not going to be an easy walk in the park to go through that self-actualization and healing process. But in the morning, that morning might be 2 months from now. It might be 3 months from now. Or you might wake up every month with a little more joy than you had last month. Just allow it to happen and do it so that you can live freely, so that you can be happy when you wake up in the morning and not grumpy and waiting on what's going to happen wrong. You can walk in a confidence that everything's going to be all right. Until then, I pray God is with you tonight, that he gives you sweet dreams, all the blessings, and everything is great, and commute to work and all that good stuff. In Jesus' name I pray, amen. Bye-bye now.